The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to feel like a living thing as Gayton McKenzie delivered a political ultimatum that reverberated far beyond the immediate audience. His words were aimed squarely at the African National Congress, ANC, but they also echoed across South Africa's already fragile coalition politics, signaling that the balance of power could shift at any moment. The Patriotic Alliance PA leader made it unmistakably clear if the ANC continued to sideline his party, he would tear up every coalition agreement binding them together and take his party into the arms of the Democratic Alliance DA. For a nation already teetering on the edge of municipal instability, McKenzie's declaration was not mere rhetoric. It carried the weight of a potential earthquake. The immediate spark for his fury was the removal of PA Deputy President Kenny Kunene from his municipal role. To the ANC it may have seemed like a routine reshuffle, a technical adjustment of portfolios and positions, but for McKenzie it was a personal and symbolic affront. He accused the ruling party of treating the PA as disposable, useful only when its numbers served the ANC's interests and expendable when it threatened their influence. They probably think because I'm a minister, they can do what they like with the PA, McKenzie declared, his voice cutting through the cameras with the precision of both anger and resolve. If they don't put Kenny Kunene back, we will leave every coalition we have with the ANC. This was no idle threat. The PA, though small compared to the ANC and DA, has long acted as a keymaker in several metros and municipalities. Its few seats have often determined whether a party maintains majority control or faces political gridlock. Without PA support, the ANC's hold over certain municipalities, particularly in Gayton, becomes tenuous, vulnerable to collapse. McKenzie went further. Breaking one of South Africa's unwritten political rules, he openly entertained an alliance with the DA. We will form a coalition with the DA, he announced without hesitation. We don't have that thing of we'll never work with the DA. We will form a coalition with the DA if they're going to treat us like this ANC. For political analysts and observers, these words signaled a potential turning point in the country's coalition politics. Historically, smaller parties have positioned themselves as cautious alternatives to the dominant parties, keeping their options open, but rarely committing fully to partnerships with either the ANC or DA. McKenzie had shattered that convention, signaling that loyalty is conditional and respect must be earned. The timing of this confrontation could not have been more challenging for the ANC. Its dominance has been eroding steadily with election results demonstrating a gradual decline in support. Voters are increasingly turning toward opposition parties and in many municipalities the ANC survives only through coalitions with smaller players. If the PA were to withdraw its support and worse join forces with the DA, the balance of power could shift dramatically in key metros like Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni where every single seat can determine control. For the DA, McKenzie's announcement must have been met with keen interest. The party's long-discussed strategy of consolidating opposition forces to challenge the ANC has struggled to gain traction beyond rhetoric. Now, with the PA openly willing to align, the DA gains not only additional seats, but also a populist edge. McKenzie's brand resonates with communities that have often felt overlooked by mainstream politics, offering the DA a potential pathway to energize voters who may have been politically disengaged or skeptical. Political analysts were quick to weigh in. Sithembu Mbete, a seasoned commentator, framed the stakes bluntly. This is no longer just about portfolios. It's about respect, influence, and who sets the terms of power. The PA feel sidelined and McKenzie is signaling they won't be taken for granted. Indeed, his words struck at the very heart of coalition politics, where survival depends not just on numerical strength, but on mutual recognition and trust. The ANC's failure to maintain that delicate balance could now cost it dearly. Inside the ANC, the situation is tense. Insiders admit the fallout over Kenny Kunene's removal has fueled mistrust and uncertainty. One official speaking privately acknowledged, "If the PA walks, we could lose control in key councils. It's that simple." The party now faces a stark choice. Swallow its pride and reverse Kunena's removal, or gamble that McKenzie is overstating his hand. Either decision carries enormous political consequences, and both highlight the fragile position of the ruling party in a fractured municipal landscape. For McKenzie, however, this confrontation is about more than municipal politics. It is an assertion of relevance, a statement that the PA will not be treated as a political afterthought. The party has carefully cultivated a brand that is unapologetically direct, fiercely protective of its members' interests, and unafraid to challenge larger parties. By openly confronting the ANC, McKenzie is defending Kenny Kunena while simultaneously reinforcing the image of a party that will not be bullied regardless of the opponent's size or influence. The implications of McKenzie's ultimatum extend well beyond a single council reshuffle. Should the ANC concede and reinstate Kunena, it would signal to smaller parties that they hold genuine sway over municipal governance, capable of influencing decisions that were once the sole province of dominant parties. Conversely, resistance from the ANC could prompt a dramatic reshuffling of coalition loyalties, potentially handing key municipalities over to DA-led administrations. Either scenario underscores the PA's capacity to disrupt the status quo and demonstrates that McKenzie's political gamble is far from routine posturing. South Africa's coalition landscape has always been precarious, characterized by shifting alliances and fragile agreements. Yet, McKenzie's ultimatum escalates the stakes, raising profound questions about the future of governance. Are we entering an era in which smaller parties dictate the terms of political engagement? Could the DA, long position as the main opposition, find renewed influence through partnerships with parties previously considered unlikely allies? And most critically, can the ANC still command loyalty in a political environment fractured by internal dissent and declining support? Or has its era of near unquestioned dominance reached a breaking point? The ANC's current silence speaks volumes. No formal response has been issued, perhaps reflecting internal deliberations or uncertainty over how best to address McKenzie's challenge. Regardless, the balance of power is clearly shifting. The Patriotic Alliance has made it evident that it will no longer accept the role of junior partner, willing to leverage its influence in ways that could reshape local governance across the country. McKenzie's move highlights a broader trend in South African politics. Smaller parties increasingly assert leverage in coalition governments, challenging assumptions that loyalty to dominant parties is permanent. In municipalities where the ANC's grip is tenuous, even a handful of seats can determine control, giving parties like the PA disproportionate influence. McKenzie's ultimatum therefore functions as both a defensive maneuver to protect his party's interest and an offensive strategy to assert relevance and amplify political clout. The consequences of this political standoff are far-reaching. If the ANC relents, it sets a precedent that smaller parties can reshape power dynamics, potentially inspiring similar challenges across the country. Should the ANC resist, the risk of losing crucial municipalities intensifies, threatening the party's ability to govern effectively and undermining its credibility in the eyes of voters. The unfolding scenario illustrates the delicate calculus of coalition politics, where strategic missteps can have consequences that ripple through multiple levels of governance. For South Africans observing these developments, McKenzie's declaration is both a warning and an indicator of shifting political tides. The PA's readiness to align with the DA demonstrates a willingness to prioritize strategic advantage over ideological purity. In a system where coalition agreements are often the difference between majority control and political deadlock, the PA's potential defection carries transformative power. It underscores that political influence is fluid and that parties historically positioned as junior partners can wield decisive authority when circumstances allow. Analysts have noted that McKenzie's approach also taps into broader societal frustrations. Communities often feel neglected by dominant parties, perceiving traditional politics as unresponsive to local concerns. McKenzie's populist style and direct approach resonate with these sentiments, offering voters a voice that feels authentic and unfiltered. By positioning the PA as both a defender of its members and a champion for neglected communities, McKenzie amplifies the party's influence far beyond the literal weight of its council seats. Internally, the ANC now faces a critical challenge in managing both perception and reality. Failure to navigate this confrontation successfully could erode trust not only with coalition partners but also with its base of supporters, reinforcing narratives of arrogance and overreach. Conversely, concession carries the risk of emboldening smaller parties to assert leverage in ways previously unimaginable, potentially complicating governance across multiple municipalities. The stakes, therefore, extend far beyond Kenny Kunena's position. They touch on the very nature of power distribution in contemporary South African politics. As the country watches, several scenarios emerge. If the ANC reinstates Kunena, it would signal that smaller parties retain the capacity to influence the ruling party's decisions decisively. If it resists, McKenzie's pledge to align with the DA could trigger a reshuffling of coalitions, potentially destabilizing key councils and reshaping political alliances ahead of future elections. Either outcome highlights the precariousness of South Africa's coalition framework, where loyalty is contingent and influence is often proportional to the willingness to assert it. In the end, McKenzie's ultimatum may be remembered as more than a single political threat. It may represent the moment when the ANC's long-standing dominance met a force willing to call its bluff publicly. The Patriotic Alliance has demonstrated that even a small party, if strategically positioned and assertively led, can exercise leverage that reshapes municipal politics. For the ANC, the challenge is clear. Respect and negotiate with smaller parties or risk seeing its influence wane in councils where every seat matters. South Africa now waits with bated breath. Observers, analysts, and citizens alike are eager to see whether the ANC will accommodate McKenzie's demands or stand firm, potentially setting the stage for a dramatic realignment of coalition politics. One thing is indisputable: the balance of power is shifting, and the Patriotic Alliance has announced its readiness to play a central decisive role in that transformation. McKenzie's challenge has not only raised questions about the ANC's authority, but also about the evolving nature of governance in a country where smaller parties are increasingly proving they can set the terms of political engagement. In a political landscape marked by fragility and volatility, the PA leader has demonstrated that assertiveness and strategic courage can alter the game entirely. The coming weeks and months will reveal whether McKenzie's gamble pays off and whether coalition politics in South Africa enters a new era, one in which influence is measured not by party size alone, but by the willingness to assert it decisively, even against the country's most dominant political force. The ultimate question now lingers. Will the ANC bend to preserve its municipal dominance? Or will South Africa witness a reshaping of the coalition chessboard, potentially altering governance in multiple metros and setting a precedent for years to come? Whatever unfolds, McKenzie's bold move has already left an indelible mark, signaling that smaller parties will no longer passively accept marginalization. The era of conditional loyalty has begun, and the political landscape of South Africa may never be the same again.